How did a kid overflowing with joy and samba magic become a target of hate? Where did this anger directed at a young man who simply wants to play the beautiful game come from? Vinicius Jr.'s story isn't just about footballing talent. It's about the horror of hate that can creep into the beautiful game. The date is May 21st, and it's Madrid versus Valencia. It's the second half of the game, and Real Madrid trails by a goal and desperately needs a comeback. But Vinicius Jr. isn't focused on the upcoming free kick, but is in a heated exchange with the fans. Valencia players and his Madrid teammates scramble to rein him in. But the Brazilian is livid, screaming at a particular fan in the crowd saying, "He called me a monkey." Madrid goalkeeper Thibaut Courtois corroborated Vinicius' claims, saying he had heard racist chants in the first half. The referee of the match, finally recognising the horror unfolding, intervened and informed the players that he would be activating the anti-racism protocol. A warning was sent to the stadium speakers. If the abuse continues, the match will be suspended. The 78th minute whistle blew and play resumed. After the incident with the racist fan, Vinicius found himself in another altercation, this time with Valencia goalkeeper Georgi Mamardashvili. Forward Hugo Duro joined in and put Vinicius in a headlock for 8 seconds. And how did the ref react? Vinicius saw a red for all his protests, while Duro, the aggressor, walked away scot-free. Like the Hugo Duro case, this wasn't the first time a Vinicius attacker would be let off the hook easily, and it wouldn't be the last. Like every super talented Brazilian football prodigy before him, Vinicius José Paixão de Oliveira Jr. wasn't exactly born with a silver spoon. The Madrid forward grew up in a tiny house tucked away at the end of a dead-end street in a part of São Gonçalo most wouldn't dare visit. It wasn't exactly sunshine and rainbows as he would have imagined, but like the aggressive defenders he faces on a weekly basis, he didn't allow his background to stop him. Vini started his football journey at Flamengo after passing a football trial. At a very young age of 9, he left people in awe at his talent. And what was the little Vini like? Well, this is what the former director of football at Flamengo, Carlos Noval, had to say. "If I had to pick one word to describe him, it would be joyous. Wherever he went, he won people over with his smile and attitude. It was contagious." But Vini wasn't only an abundance of joy, he was super talented. People who saw the kid play knew he was a gem, a future star waiting to be polished. It didn't take long for Vini to prove this at the Copinha, a youth tournament that was like the World Cup for Brazilian teens. The thing is, most of the other players in the tournament were 3 years older than Vinicius. But you know that thing they say about age being just a number? Vinicius made quite the impression. He would go on to prove his talent with the Brazilian team at the 2017 Under-17 South American Championship. The 16-year-old came back with 7 goals and a winner's medal. But here's the thing, not everyone liked his style of play. Vinicius played with flair, with a kind of flashy magic that some found annoying. According to those who knew him from his early days, the youngster wasn't afraid to tell defenders exactly how he was about to leave them in the dust. This confidence, as you would expect, didn't sit well with everyone. His last 6 months in Brazil were like a foreshadowing of what was to come in Europe. After scoring in a 3-1 victory against Botafogo, the winger performed a crybaby gesture to the crowd. What Vini didn't know was that this harmless gesture would send the football community into a frenzy, and not the suitable type. The clapback didn't just come from rival fans or critics, even Flamengo's legends questioned his behaviour. At that point, it wasn't just about his fancy footwork anymore. He was attracting both praise and a growing pile of disapproval. This wasn't his school playground anymore. This was big-time football, where careers could be made or destroyed by a single celebration. The joyous kid was about to face a whole new monster he wasn't aware of. European clubs have always had a thing for South American prodigies from the days of Maradona, the then 22-year-old football genius who crossed over from Boca Juniors in 1982 to Barcelona, and current generation like Brazilian wonderkid Endrick. Vinicius is one such example. He hadn't even played with Flamengo's senior team yet, but his face was already on the cover of a major European sports magazine. Big European clubs were circling around the young man, but it was Real Madrid who won the lottery. Real Madrid struck a deal with Vini before he even turned 18, with just 17 minutes of senior football under his belt. They paid a hefty price of €46 million for the Flamengo sensation, making him at the time the second most expensive Brazilian player, only behind the one and only Neymar. Vinicius landed in Madrid just as their starman Cristiano Ronaldo was leaving in 2018, having earlier signed the deal on the 23rd of May 2017. Madridistas had been sold the tale of a wunderkind, so it was no surprise fans desperately pinned their hopes on this young Brazilian. But he didn't have the immediate impact they expected. As the record proves, Vini was not yet the finished product. All that fancy footwork he brought with him from Brazil rarely translated into goals or assists. His first season yielded just 3 goals and 9 assists with the first team, and the next brought 5 goals but a drop to 4 assists. The third season followed a similar pattern, 6 goals and 7 assists. But it wasn't just the poor returns of goals and assists that got fans upset, it was his frustrating gameplay. He struggled with pulling off passes, controls, and even the dribbles that stood him out of the masses. It was as if the shine was starting to wear off. The fans were getting frustrated, so it was no surprise he rarely featured in his first 3 seasons in the starting lineup. Something had to change, and change arrived with Carlo Ancelotti. Vinicius' time at Real Madrid is a tale of 2 halves. The first 3 seasons were a frustrating struggle, a young talent failing to live up to the hype. The 2021-22 season saw him silence his critics. 22 goals and 20 assists across all competitions, dismantling defences and leading his team to victory against La Liga and Champions League giants. He forged a telepathic partnership with Karim Benzema, and with their combined firepower, they propelled Real Madrid to the La Liga and Champions League trophies. The icing on the cake was Vinicius himself scoring the winning goal in the Champions League final. Vini had arrived, and everything was going to be smooth sailing, or so he thought. What he didn't see coming was the turbulence of racial discrimination coming his way. Spanish football had a long and ugly history of racism. Vini's compatriots Ronaldinho, Neymar, Dani Alves, and Roberto Carlos had all faced the same ugly prejudice that the Real Madrid forward is subjected to. The youngster, like his predecessors, was accused of being provocative with his style of play, not just by rival fans, but even by players and pundits. On one occasion, after celebrating a goal in a 4-1 victory against Mallorca, Pedro Bravo, the president of the Spanish Agents Association, criticised his celebration, saying, "You have to respect rivals and stop playing the monkey." Bravo would later apologise for his comments, but that didn't stop the hate coming Vini's way. The 2022-2023 season saw the hatred escalate to sickening levels. Before a Copa del Rey match against Atletico Madrid in January, an inflatable doll in a Vinicius shirt hung from the railings of a bridge. The harassment continued throughout the season, and it wasn't until a particular incident at the Mestalla that the world saw the ugly side of Spanish football. The Mestalla incident wasn't an isolated incident. It was one of plenty of racist onslaughts in a season riddled with hate. This was the 8th reported case of racist abuse Vinicius had endured in the 2022-23 campaign. There have been incidents at Barcelona's Camp Nou, Real Betis's Benito Villamarin, Osasuna's El Sadar, and Mallorca's Son Moi. In all of these, the young Brazilian has been left alone to fight his aggressors, and perhaps, seeing how there's little or no consequence for the hate and abuse that comes his way, opposition players have targeted him with excessive aggression. He became La Liga's most fouled player, a staggering 121 times in the 2022-23 season, 22 more than any other player. His frustration boiled over at times, leading to 10 yellow cards, but the contrast was stark. In the Champions League, where racism was less prevalent, Vinicius thrived without his constant barrage of fouls. There's no doubt that the player himself can be quite passionate. I mean, the Brazilian himself admitted to his theatrics on the pitch in an interview after an El Clasico match. After Uruguayan defender Ronaldo Araujo was sent off in the Spanish Super Cup final against Madrid, Vini was seen on camera taunting the Barca bench. His antics were condemned, and he seemed to agree he did too much sometimes, but admitted to wanting to improve. He said this in an interview after the match: "Everyone wants to fight me. I try my best to stay focused. I am not a saint. Sometimes I talk too much, sometimes I do dribbles that I don't have to do, and I want to improve." But in spite of all of these, his antics on the pitch of play are no justification for racial abuse. Vinny isn't the first footballer tagged provocative. Football legends like Diego Costa, Luis Suarez, Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Eric Cantona and Paulo Di Canio have had few scraps with. The feeling of being unfairly targeted extended beyond the pitch. Vinicius and his team felt the Spanish media was complicit. They saw narratives portraying the racist abuse as a reaction to his provocative playing style and his vocal defiance. Vinny was no doubt getting bummed out, big time. At a press conference before a Brazil-Spain friendly, he broke down in tears talking about how much racism he has had to endure from fans in Spain. He confessed to losing joy in playing football, but even at that, the joyous kid from Flamengo has vowed that he won't leave Spain to avoid them. He's going to fight this one out like the champion that he is.